Hi there, Linda.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Yeah, good, and nice to chat to you online. Thank you for your time today. Yeah,
Pleasure.
it's been wonderful, like, to catch up with so many different people in the last, I guess, 18 months, 2 years now. It's crazy,
Yep.
isn't it? So thank you for your time today. I'm interested, obviously, in what you do, your experiences in the last 18 months, things you've learned, and opportunities. Really, I guess for some people it's been a chance to look at opportunities or reflect on things. But first of all, if you'd like to tell me a little bit more about what you do, that would be great.
Yep. So I'm Linda, and I'm Practice Management Director at Wessex Commercial Solutions. We are a firm of chartered accountants. I'll say at the outset that I'm not an accountant. I'll explain a little bit more of what I do later on. But basically, we help business owners. We help them integrate their sales platforms with Xero. We work solely on the Xero platform. We help them to automate data entry, and with that information, we then can help them make informed decisions about their business. So improve profits and actually get some time back for themselves, and to, I guess, reinvest in their business. I'm particularly passionate about making sure that people don't just grow their business without growing the profits at the same time. I've seen too many businesses that have done that, and we've been able to help clients sometimes actually scale things back a little bit and become more profitable, which takes a huge amount of pressure off them. But on the, I mean, obviously I'm not one of the accountancy team. I look after all sorts of things in the business. IT is one of the big areas. Compliance, marketing, and really anything that's not accounts and tax. um,
Right. Okay.
but I think it gives me I think it gives me a perspective that I can relate to the situations that the business owners find themselves in. I'm one of the shareholders at Wessex, and I can also see what my accountancy colleagues are trying to achieve as well. So I kind of I can be devil's advocate a little bit sometimes in-house, which is nice. I can really, yeah, really think about it from the business perspective.
That's great. And I guess your role then, particularly in the last, 18 months, 2 years, with people that have kind of just seen sheer panic, not been into the wood for the trees. I guess so. You've been, obviously looking at the numbers and opportunities for people, like you
Yeah,
said, not just for growing the business, but the profit as well. And I guess profits have been hit hard the last 18 months. So how's
yeah,
that how's that been with you with clients?
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, different sectors have found have had different experiences. So uh, some clients have just been working non-stop throughout, and have been as busy as ever. But others, a lot of businesses, obviously hospitality, sectors like that, have been hit really hard. And a lot of the work that we've done has been about making sure they're informed, that they're claiming all the grants and support that they can, that they're getting all the loans and things that they can put in place to see them through what has just been a really incredibly difficult time. Well, I mean, one of the other things that we have, I guess, brought into the equation is that we're a virtual office. We have been for most of we've been in existence for more than a decade, and for most of that time, we've been a virtual office as well. So we've been trying to share some of our knowledge and expertise on how the virtual side of things works. I think so. One of the things that's been interesting from our point of view is that some of the hesitancy towards doing things like video conferencing just dropped away. Uh, um, although we were virtual, we've always gone out to see clients, and we miss that hugely. But even internally, we've done more video conferencing than we used to. So, the pandemic changed even our experience with that virtual setup.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's been funny with, say, getting used to it. For some people, it's been the first time they've had to do stuff online.
yes,
I know a few people that have really embraced the video side, and it's really elevated their businesses. But
yeah,
I started lecturing university locally in last November, And when I first went on, all the students had their screens all turned off and there's little names. I was like, get your cameras on, because it's just weird. And it is strange. And I met up with somebody who was a client during lockdown. And they only ever talked to me over this. And then we met in person. He goes, oh, you're really tall. Because, of course, he's never seen me sat down, which is a weird conversation. And there's a little bit of now meeting up, kind of scoping people out, like, looking around the backs of people's heads and going, oh, right.
Yes, that's it. You do build up a picture of people in your mind, and when you just see a headshot, I saw a picture of someone this morning, and I thought, I was sure you were going to be taller. But that's I think that's the thing for all. We've been adopting things like Xero. We adopted several years ago now. When automated bookkeeping came along, so this is software like used to be called Receipt Bank, been rebranded as Dext. I basically machine reads all of your purchase data, and there's a little bit of AI that helps. What's the word? Just sort of code things correctly. We obviously have a level of human intervention on top of that. But I remember being so skeptical about it and thinking, I don't know if this will ever work, but we're going to give it a go. So we and I was blown away by it a few years ago. We've seen people just take up those technologies more and more, which saves people time, which is, I think if we've learned something, I've learned, just how much I value time with my family and time with my friends as well. I was at home I didn't leave the house apart from a medical appointment for 16 weeks last year.
Wow.
And I miss seeing the people that I spend a lot of my time with, but I also miss seeing the people that I just say hello to in the street. And I think those relationships are really important, and we've always said that although we're massive advocates of cloud technology, the relationships are the most important thing for us. So we've always met up with clients in person, so we've missed that, but we're starting to get back into those in-person meetings, which is great.
Yeah, I think that we've all really missed that, and that really gave us time, didn't it, to look back and what was important. Just going back to your bit about the AI, it's just even 10 years ago when I set my business up, I was still printing out invoices and putting them in a folder. I've just got petrol on the way to the office, and let's get my phone out, put it onto an app, and it's off to my accountant. And even for me, that's a bit strange. And we use Xero as well. It's great, love Xero, that kind of thing. But going back to you were saying about with the relationship side, it's been an okay substitute for a while, I think, and I'm wish we'd taken shares in some of these companies online, but it'd be interesting how that drop off's been, because like you said, it's good to do more internal meetings because it's quicker and it saves more time on that, but we definitely crave those conversations. During lockdown, when you were back home, what about in terms of your well-being and hobbies, and is there anything outside of work that you really enjoy?
I did study a lot last year. Just before the pandemic, I'd signed up to do a data science program with Learning People. And so we started that in person. It was always going to be an online self-learning program. But we started it with a couple of in-person meetings. We were then... we were then just chatting on Slack, and we didn't have those kind of meetups that we'd hoped to through that course. But that was I did invest a lot of time on the data side, and also I was learning Python. First time I had done any coding since I think it was probably BBC, the BBC basics in the early 1990s. Yeah. But I've always been into technology, and I've always been adopting the latest thing. So it was really great to do that. So it did give me some time to do that. But I mean, on a personal level, I mean, I before the pandemic hit, for health reasons, I was at the gym or an exercise class 6 days a week. So I had to replace that at home. So I did Joe Wicks for his. I did the whole of the live Joe Wicks series, and then I sort of switched to a couple of friends who are gym instructors were doing their own online programs. So I've got involved with those and I've stuck to them. So that kind of kept me sane, just about. But it was really hard. I mean, I think at the start, I think a lot of people thought, oh, it's all going to be over quite quickly. The message, though, that went out to people who had to shield was that it was going to be potentially 12 or more weeks of shielding. So it was quite clear that this wasn't going to be over very quickly. So I did put together a little 12-week plan, and I had my 12-week goals, and sort of around fitness, and I did a little sewing project that had been on the back burner forever. And I set my little daily goals, and I had a daily video call with my mum as well, and that just kept us both just about sane. But it was really challenging, and I think the thing about that first spell, when children were being homeschooled, nurseries were closed, it wasn't really, people were saying, oh, this work from home thing is really hard work, but it wasn't working from home. It was working from home in a pandemic with no, without your usual support structures. Yeah. Working at home in more normal times is a completely different experience, and it was challenging. And I'll say that if we didn't have Joe Wicks on at 9 a.m, we probably wouldn't have got out of bed on some days, because it just didn't. It was that difficult. So I think the thing with working from home generally, though, is that you do have to put in place those structures that you have kind of naturally in the office. So I've always had with my kids, when my kids were at primary school, walk to and from school, that would be the start and the end of the work day for me. And I'm quite disciplined about the laptop goes away and out of sight at the end of the day. I've got much better at using things like digital wellbeing tools on my phone, because as you can imagine, in the role that I'm in, I've got an app for everything.
Yeah.
And I'm always on the phone. So using those tools, but you've got to get those structures in place, and that doesn't suit everybody. But I think where you've got some of the I think we've got some sort of, I'm going to call them natural distractions from work, whether it's other people to look after, a dog to walk, something that will take you away from your desk. I think that helps. And if you haven't got those things, you've got to be really proactive in planning to get away from work. If you're a workaholic like I am.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like you've done some great things there. And you said it's getting that structure, because I think to start with, a lot of people were like, this is obviously terrifying and what's going to happen, but it was like, oh my god, suddenly I've been given time back, and the structure's gone out, and then like a lot of you suddenly need those. Well, we need some kind of routine, because this is ridiculous. I mean, I worked all the way through. My wife was off for 3 months in the garden tanning herself, and I'm there like in the heat working away. But yeah, it was just needing to have that structure. But what got me was my best friend and I we'd meet up when you could meet up with other people outside, going for country walks. He says, this is the most bizarre thing ever. Me and you going for a country walk. And we were joking about it. We went to the football last week, the first football match I've been to. I think we went to one just before lockdown. And so it was strange, because there's all these people around. I was still wearing my mask in the club shop, but then I got a bit sort of, there's too many people, and it was a bit overwhelming. But I said, when are we going to go for our next country walk? And he laughed. I thought, no, like we need to do something like this, because otherwise we'll go back to just, like you say, sat at home looking at your phone. So it's interesting. But you've done Joe Wicks as well. That's great to do that, and then say videos.
But I missed the whole country walk thing. This was like all of my friends know the local area so much better than I do now, because I just missed that. I literally didn't leave the garden. So like, and my kids, all of their friends were out doing the big family walks. Nope, didn't do any of that. It was quite it was hard work to stay fit during that time. So we have now got a fully equipped home gym.
Oh, that's great.
And yeah, of course now though I wouldn't be without it. And although I was at the gym a lot before the pandemic, I can't see myself going back more than just the occasional visit just to use some equipment that I don't have. But
Yeah. I've got a gym membership down the road on the way to work. I intentionally chose the gym that was on the way to work. I haven't been for like 2 years, but now they've started taking money out again. I'm like, right. When the kids get back to school, then I have to, the structure's back in place.
yeah,
But yeah, going back to the bit with the going for the country walks, we were doing so many walks where we were. I like knew all the butterflies and the caterpillars by name, which is it was ridiculous. Like doing the same walks every day. But and I was glad when I play football once a week, and I was so worried because I'm early 40s. Some of the guys a lot of them in their 20s now. We play five-a-side, and I was delighted when I turned up when we could play again. When they all had beer bellies, all the 20-year-olds. That was all good.
Well, I mean, I think 12 or however many weeks it was of Joe Wicks live in the mornings. My husband and I got quite fit doing that, and then it's surprising what you can do with just those little changes and those small habit changes. Just build up to they have quite a big impact over time.
Yeah.
So yeah. It was interesting. I think the thing that we found more challenging was keeping our children motivated on track. Screen time management just went out the window, and my youngest in particular did complain a lot about homeschooling, because for him, home is where you relax and school is where you want to do the work. He also does taekwondo, and again, he found it difficult to get into taekwondo on Zoom because he was like, it's not a dojang. He very much associated the place with the activity, and there are different ways you can change that mindset, but when that's how you've been, I guess that's how you've been brought up, and that's how you've sort of adapted to things in life. It takes quite a lot of mental work to change that feeling. So yeah, it was a really challenging time, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, great. Well, going back, that's all great. And you've obviously been very, very disciplined and motivated doing the home gym stuff, and that's good to hear. I feel bad now. I feel like, oh god, I should have done a lot more. But going back to the business side, and in terms of opportunities for what opportunities, maybe unknown opportunities, things that arise that you thought, well, I'm interested in sort of operational things where people have noticed a better way of working, or perhaps your clients have.
I think, some of the challenges. I think the challenges that clients are facing now are there's a very big challenge around frontline labour, manual labour, and in some respects that's not something that we can make a big difference to as a practice, other than freeing up people's time on cutting down the admin time that people are spending in their business, and actually making sure that when they do invest in a particular part of the business, so expanding a particular platform or product line, that they're actually doing that in a way that they know is going to generate profits. But I think we certainly do look with our clients at things like the cost of taking on staff, and we're always looking at ways with them to use the people that they've got as efficiently as possible as well. But yeah, I think that is probably one of the biggest challenges that people are facing at the moment, without doubt. And it's, I think rather naively, perhaps we thought that some of those problems would go away, in 2021. And I think we're probably really now only understanding the impact of Brexit on the movement of labour, But I guess it's a combination. The movement of labour is not, I guess, been restricted also by COVID. But yeah, we're starting to see that these issues, and people are having to be a bit more imaginative about how they use their workforce. In fact, I know one firm that is deploying their office staff on their production line on a rota basis. So, I think people have got to look at all the options, really.
It's sort of also it's a balance of that caution and risk, isn't it? Particularly with businesses that are just coming out and, like you say, looking at profits. So, and we've noticed that in the marketing side. People often cut marketing first because it's seen as a cost as opposed to an investment. They say the best time to market yourself during a recession or something like this, where you can position yourself higher than your competitors, or you can differentiate yourself more. But obviously there's that caution attached to it. Well, at the moment where, we'll wait to see. We've had it obviously with the events industry. We wait to see what's happening, because we really didn't know. And I think you mentioned there the double whammy of Brexit and COVID in terms of the workforce, because it's the shortfall, particularly in the hospitality industry, but all the lack of anything, like lack of drivers of lorries and.
Yep.
And that knock-on effect, even with like your bin collections, and of course somebody in a team gets pinged and then the whole team's out, and then it's that knock-on effect. But so we've all had to learn to work differently and work around things. But I think for me it's been interesting, those companies that, well, we've always done this, so we always did it that way. That's the worry, is that they haven't seen a chance of a new way of working, and like you said, it's to save more time and be more efficient.
I think without doubt, the businesses that are, we're talking to new clients at the moment who are have been through a really tough 18 months and are saying, actually, now we want to make some changes. We want to shake things up, do things differently. The other big change, which is seems to be sort of flying under the radar in the media, is the changes to the VAT rules, exporting low value goods to the EU. There's now, from 1st of July, there's an import one-stop shop being rolled out across the EU, and the UK. For whatever reason, HMRC has not yet set up its portal to allow retailers to sell low-value items to the EU through this one-stop shop. So what's happening is retailers are in a really difficult situation where they either have to decide that it's simply not worth selling their low-value items to EU customers, or they register in another EU country, which for me, I think that's crazy. We just seem to be taking business out of the UK. It should be done through HMRC, as far as I'm concerned, or they just work through the big online marketplaces. So online retailers in particular are still dealing with all sorts of Brexit-related hurdles that are probably not apparent to the general public, and that's on top of all the all of the issues with COVID. I mean, clearly online retailing has the market share has increased phenomenally over the last few months, but still those are big challenges being put in and barriers. Those are barriers to trade that have been put in place, and I find that really frustrating. But we've just got to work with clients at the moment to weigh up the costs, the risks, the opportunities, and keep our fingers crossed that HMRC will actually put in place the solution.
That's good. Yeah, that's what's been interesting with this project is hearing those things that you say that go under the radar, from the challenge from suppliers that are a local toy shop here in Taunton that he doesn't know what stock's coming in. He's got to order now for Christmas. He doesn't know if he can get the stock. I was chatting to Ian Wells from Polyvine, who export to Europe in one of the previous videos. And the importing has been really hard for some businesses because a kitchen company, a client of mine, they'll quote for a kitchen. Kitchens are maybe German, Italian kitchens. The quote lasts 30 days, but 30 days later, the price has gone up because the materials aren't there. And,
Yeah.
even stuff like, I see lots of things on social media. People go, well, why didn't they just fix all the roads during when we were all in lockdown? It's like, because, people don't seem to understand that it's, the safety and the staffing issues and the legalities of things, legislation that's changing constantly. And, it's just hearing those stories is interesting. Like you said, must hear a lot of them your end from your clients.
Yeah, and it is for, I think the supply chains have changed, and we're not seeing that, those sort of smooth, sort of just in time supply chains that we used to. But I'm not aware that there are the same issues in other countries to the same extent. I think we seem to have some, I don't know. We seem to have some bigger issues. But I think one of the other issues, though, is that there probably does need to be some restructuring in the labour market. I think we've seen how important frontline workers are. I started my career in a construction office with a scaffolding company, and I learned on the first day really that those guys out on the scaffolding were, they were the people earning the money for us. And without them, we would be nowhere. I think we as a nation, we're probably learning that lesson, that those frontline workers are so important. I think the other side of the skills kind of shortage, if you like, is on the digital skills. I do a lot of I do a lot of work on getting our systems and processes in such a way that we make things super easy for our clients, and we do a lot of work on integrating systems as a business. But there's definitely I can see there's a shortage in that area. When you look on LinkedIn, those are all the roles that are being advertised at the moment. So I think there's the hands-on stuff, and then there's the digital stuff, and those are the two areas that we need to look at. How do we increase the how do we value people who are in those frontline roles better, and how do we upskill people more generally in their digital skills?
No, I definitely, from the people I've spoken to in the last 18 months, it's quite terrifying for some people to try and go online or even know how to turn a camera on or what, my mum would be like, what have I done now? Couldn't even turn the TV on. But also it is, like, say when it's particular, digital infrastructure, people suddenly working from, I saw you roll your eyes in, but like rural, it's things like that. When something happens like this, it pulls everything away, and you go, yikes, we're in rural communities, like, the broadband infrastructure is horrendous. Like, say, we've got vast people that like you said, the jobs that are coming out now, the golfing experience from the youngsters that are graduating, the ones that I work with now, they've shown me, I don't even know, it's trying to keep up with it. It's moving so fast. And like you said, it's people seeing the opportunities to, be more efficient, to, and, use the technology more to make the business more profitable and more efficient.
I think young people are coming through with confidence to use technology. So I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum. I helped a lady I'm friends with who's in her 80s have our first Facebook video call over the pandemic. That was a lot of fun. Whereas a young person would just intuitively try out all the tools and things that are available. I think the gap is still in coding. Coding is required to a certain extent to join up some of those tools, as well as obviously to build them. And that's where I think there's a little bit of a gap in the skills that we're teaching young people. They're confident, I say, jumping in and using the technology, but creating it and understanding what goes behind it. I think I'm in my mid-40s, and I've got the advantage that I, started with when the technology was still very limited, and have seen and learned how things have evolved to the point that they're at now. and have some, I guess, an understanding of the absolute basics of computing. Whereas, if you haven't gone through that journey, I wonder, you probably need a little history lesson to show you just what's behind the scenes, and how simple everything boils down to. The simple ones and zeros, and even, I mean, for me, last year studying data science, we were looking at AI as well, and running the most basic AI programs, and it was fascinating for me. And now, having done that, I can see how platforms like all the social platforms are building in bias into their algorithms, because of the data that they're testing their software with. And I wouldn't have had that appreciation had I not. I maybe even had a theoretical awareness, but I can see how it actually works in practice now, and it's given me a really valuable insight. And I really want to see more young people come through with that knowledge and that understanding. One of the things that I volunteer with Girl Guiding, and as soon as the pandemic hit, we got online, did all our Zoom meetings and all that sort of stuff. But that was all good. That was all good fun, interesting, and it was an interesting time. But one of the things that I'm doing with Girl Guiding in Somerset at the moment is we're going to be recruiting some volunteers to be digital champions for Girl Guiding in Somerset, and I want them to be getting the chance to use skills that will be valuable for them in the workplace, and really get the message out about what our different groups are and organisations are within our county. I think it'll be I guess I've got to that point in life where I kind of want to share some of the skills and knowledge that I've gained over the last couple of decades.
Absolutely, I say it's really rewarding to do that, and what's good now is obviously there's more. As more people are more au fait with technology, and it's nicer to connect up dots with the similar groups, or like you said, get in touch with people with funding, or there's, I've noticed that in the last, say, 10 years of business that it's changed drastically, and not just in terms of my accountancy use, but how people are using technology. And I think, but also going back to an earlier point you said about the meeting up, it's having the social, not forgetting the social skills. And anything like my teenage daughters who are just, like most teenagers, but it's having that mix of like you say, my niece is 2.5. She can get a tablet and open up YouTube and put on Peppa Pig and change. It's ridiculous to watch it. My mum, if I tried to explain Bitcoin to my mum, or I know selling digital assets online, she'd be like, this is witchcraft, or what's going on. But so that generational thing, but it's okay. It's the social skills that go with it, and being, like I said, the confidence in the technology, like it's second nature to them. Having a conversation recently about, for my children, renting a video at a Blockbuster they're like, why can't you just download? It's just not, and that's just in such a short time. It's the sort of on-demand thing is, the instantness of the world now, and the pace. And I think going back to like lockdown, it kind of was a very good opportunity for some people to take stock of things and reevaluate.
I think if I think this is where the history comes in. Whether it's history of computer science, history of medicine. We things have changed so rapidly over the last few decades, and certainly over the last century, that we've lost sight in some respects of how. I guess how simple things were in the past, but also how challenging. We didn't have the medicines and the computer technology that we've got now. So I think there's a almost like, I think there's a bit of a gap in the curriculum that we need to build that understanding. But I think the other big thing for me, and for us as a family, but I think big opportunity that we have now is to think much more about sustainability and climate change. And I do remember those first few days of lockdown when you didn't hear cars on the road, and it was quite surreal, but it was quite thought-provoking. We went to our we went to we got our second EV delivered in the summer of last year. I don't know if we'd have got it delivered if we would have ordered it if we'd known what was coming, but we got our second EV in last summer, and we also decided that we'd go ahead and get a Powerwall installed at home as well. So we've got solar panels, and we've just really tried to take a step forward and be a bit more not really off grid so much as generating our own power and being a bit more, trying to be a bit more sustainable. We're obviously driving less, trying to cycle a little bit more. But we've got this huge opportunity to redesign things. And I think it'll be very easy for us to let that slip past. I mean, I think it was yesterday on LinkedIn, someone was sharing projections of maps of Somerset and Devon. I think it was in 2050, if climate change continues on a certain trajectory, and whole swathes of the county will be underwater. And, 30 years will pass in a flash, and we've got to act now. So I think, we've taken the freedom to travel for granted, but I think traveling has to be a bit more considered, and we've got to really think about how we make it sustainable, which is very difficult when you've got, I guess now there's a disincentive to use public transport because for health reasons. Those things, I guess that, even when it comes to things like coffee cups, disposable coffee cups came back in during the pandemic. There's sort of been competing objectives, if you like, but I think we've just got such a big opportunity now to change the way we do things, and I can see the appeal of going back to the office for all sorts of reasons, but I hope that people and business owners make a sort of thoughtful decision about how they use their offices in the future. And I'd really like offices to be, as somebody who doesn't have one, I imagine offices are going to be places of collaboration, discussion, meetings, conversation, ideas. And I hope that they don't go back to being places where people just sit behind a screen, because you can do that from anywhere. I'm also very conscious that I say that as somebody who's got the luxury of a bit of space in my home to sit behind a computer uninterrupted. I know for young people particularly that's been a challenge. My stepdaughter resisted the pressure, I guess, to work from home for a long time through the pandemic. She was a frontline bank worker, and in the end, she actually worked from home at my mother-in-law's, who was in her bubble and had more space. It basically got her out of her bedroom. But I do have a lot of sympathy for people that haven't got the luxury that I've got in terms of my working arrangements. But I think we've got to look at how we use offices and what we want them to, what are we there to achieve? I think that the difficulty, I guess, is that we can only, we're all human. We can only process some of these big decisions, a little at a time. And we've almost faced too many big issues over the last 18 months. We've got to break it down into little manageable chunks.
I guess there's some really lots of really good points that we've discussed, some really interesting ideas. And I guess the main thing is there's a lot of stuff to untangle still. Some of it we can do ourselves, and like you said, be motivated, make different choices, but some of it needs to come from people who make these decisions to force us to change our habits. So it's going to be an interesting time how things are going to set. The dust is going to take a while to settle from both Brexit and obviously the COVID in terms of health and safety and workforce and digital technology. So it's an interesting time to see how things go forward. So but it's great. It's been wonderful to chat to you today, Linda. So thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. lots of different subjects there. So yeah, look after yourself and keep in touch, and all the
Thanks,
best.
Paul.
All
Been
right,
a
all the
pleasure.
best. Thank you.
Thank you.